بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to have our session this week from Holy City of Qom, and we pray for a blessed session, inshallah. Our session today will be short, but at least, inshallah, we can keep it. As you remember, after discussing the school of power, Ayatollah Mutahari started with the school of love or mahabba. And there are lots of things that we share and we have, agreement. But again, the problem is that they have taken this to the extreme, and they have reduced all virtues only to love, like power. If you remember, with the school of power, we had two main problems. One was that why you reduce every virtue to power, and second, why you have a limited understanding of power. Why you think power is just, political, for example, or physical or worldly. Here we have something similar. Why all virtues are reduced to love, and especially they mean loving people. And why you reduce loving people to just helping them with certain needs, as if the only thing that matters is meeting their physical needs, give them food and water, etc. So this is the summary of our discussion about love. But there are lots of course, details here. So the first thing that Ayatollah Mutahari says after our discussion last week is about a difference between East and West in general. Of course, you can never have a, universal way of behavior in any geographical place. But in a secular West, normally emotions are, I can say, if I want to be, more careful and more fair, maybe we can say it's more reserved. They don't share their emotions easily. And sometimes also maybe they don't have that much of emotions. For example, Ayatollah Mutahari refers to two specific particular stories that some of his friends had shared with him about two countries in the West, that, how, for example, someone who had cancer and met, in the hospital with only Muslim brothers and sisters, but wife and child had left him as they knew that he had cancer. And he says this person died finally. There was no cure. And when he died, he said that we saw his son came, and we were happy that at least they have come for his funeral and, doing things for his departure. But he says we realized that he had come to sell his body to the hospital so that they can use it for, some experiments, etc. And another story also, that how someone was very much, close to his son, and the son was studying in that country, and on another table in the restaurant, for example, there was a couple and they were surprised, who is this person that you are so much serving? He said, my father. He said, why are you doing so much helping him? And he made it simple instead of explaining all the things about love between father and child, etc. I said, because he's kind to me, he sends money so that I can study here. But they weren't, surprised that why he's so much looking after his father, etc. Of course, those of you who live in the West, you know that West is very much divided in the sense that there are pockets. There are many good people and many emotional people also, but secular modern culture reduces the role of emotions first, and maybe reduces also the emotional ties. And sometimes they may even take it as a weakness, and sometimes they may think it's better, to let your child, leave the home, for example, when they are young, so that they can be independent and strong. So there are lots of things here discussed, but we don't want to go into this discussion. But in general, maybe it's fair to say that in East, whether it's Islam, whether it's other religions in the East, there's more place for sympathy and empathy and love and emotions, and even some moral philosophers have said that, for example, in the East, more focus is given to common good, but in the West is given more to individual rights. So even non-believers have said these things. So Ayatollah Mutahari says, therefore, we don't have any issue with, emphasis on the role of positive emotions or supportive emotions and love, etc. But our problem is that, first of all, emotions have to be originating from good reasons and have to be also expressed in a measured way. So, for example, if you let your emotions drive you and take you everywhere they want, then you would not have stable and consistent life. You would not have a stable relation with people, because our emotions are very much changeable. And also, if you just go by emotions, there is a great chance, this is, my observation, that our emotions are mostly driven by our so think something positive or negative in someone, your emotions are affected. A moment, a strong believer and a person who is moving to action, they should be whom they should love and have a relation, even if or even some I hear some facts that this person has should become all negative and cut off our relations. Few people. So there are lots of things to talk about emotions, and we don't want now to talk about these emotions. But the main thing is that there is certainly great emphasis on love, positive role of emotions. Why you are only focusing on love? This is one problem. There are many other aspects in human being. For example, isn't knowledge also important? If you have an uneducated person who has not learned anything, has not had any formal or informal centers, attended centers of learning or benefited from lectures, I don't know, no member, nothing. and just loves and loves. But there is no education, there is no ma'rifah, there is no orientation. Or for example, what about other things? Sometimes also you have to be brave. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. So this is one problem. That's why everything is reduced to love. Another problem is that why you are taking also love just as a matter of emotions, number two. And number three, love and all the positive things that you do for people should be first established on justice. Because he says there are people that do lots of injustice, and then they help some people, and they say, we are very much, caring and, loving people. Or some people may think like this. But for example, in their dealing with their employees, in the dealing with their, clients, in their business, or even in their family life, there is no justice. First, there must be justice and then help other people. For example, sometimes we praise people that they are very kind and hospitable. He says, there are people that always, they invite guests and, okay, this is good. But what about your family, your wife, for example? Is she also happy? Or you are doing zulm to your wife and family by bringing lots of guests home, and every time they have, to cook, to clean, etc. And so you have to do things in the way that you don't disregard rights of some people to show generosity to or hospitality to other people. He says some of our ulama were very careful about not asking anything from their family. And of course, maybe they take it to this extent because their level of piety was very high, and also maybe because they can also inspire others. Not that they did it for this, but because they are role models, and role models have higher standards for themselves. So for example, he says, the late Mirza Muhammad Taqi Shirazi, one of our great Maraja, who was a teacher of Ayatollah Sheikh Abdul Karim Ha'iri, who restored the Hawz al-Ilmi of Qom. It is said that he never asked his family for anything. Even once he was ill and his family made some soup for him, and then children had put the soup next to the door of his room. And Agha was ill and was not able to move, but didn't call his family to come and give me the soup, because he was thinking that I have no right to command anything. If my wife is cooking at home in the kitchen, if she's happy, she can do it, but I cannot say bring it to me. So she had this level of concern. What we have in the case of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam also is that although based on Lady Zahra's choice, internal affairs of the home were supposed to be taken care of by Lady Fatima, and external affairs by Amirul Mu'minin, but still he was helping a lot Lady Fatima. So we have to take care of all these details. And Islam is a religion that takes lots of care of details. And unfortunately, when we don't take care of these details, we cannot reflect the beauty of Islam. Imagine if there is a, carpet, for example, there's a beautiful carpet. Sometimes in a matter of inch, there are tens of ties or sometimes more, so that the resolution, the contrast is very high, and the quality of also carpet goes high, the beauty both. So imagine if there is a design which needs, for example, 700 ties in a measure, then instead of 700, you have 100 ties. The quality goes down. The beauty is not that much. Details are not visible. You know, how for sometimes, you know, this tie is in red, the next tie is in white, the next one is in blue. But if the resolution goes down, then in the place that's supposed to be white, then it still is blue, for example. So in the end, people think that design was not good, but not knowing that the one who made the carpet didn't follow the design. Islam is a religion that has care of lots of details. And if we don't observe Islam as a package, then would be like this carpet, which is not beautiful because details are nothing. So maybe, for example, we have good relation at home, but not in the community, or maybe in community, not in the society. Maybe I'm good at work, not at home. Maybe I'm good at home, not at work. Maybe I'm good with my friends, but not just and fair with my enemies. Or for example, maybe we are hospitable, but not about the strangers in our city or tourists or refugees, etc. So we have to take care of everything. And to reduce perfection to just one virtue is not doing justice. He says a very beautiful example from the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took place in the Battle of Mu'tah. You know, Islam inherited a culture, or followed a culture in which mercy was not a big thing, and even sometimes mercy for a man was a sign of weakness. We had last week, last session, the story of someone who had never kissed his children. For them, the main thing was bravery, and bravery was more expressed in demanding and fighting and controlling and riding horses and taking the swords, etc. This was very important for them. Rahma was not a main thing even for their children. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to be rahma. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. But the way Allah wanted him to be Rahma lil Alameen was not that he is Rahim and everyone else is remaining the same. No, the path was that he is Rahim, and through education and formation and through his example of mercifulness, he would make other people also merciful. And then in turn, they can inspire other people to be merciful. So he pumped love and kindness and mercy to the hearts of these people. And you see, lots of people changed. But when the source of this love and mercy departed this world, unfortunately, then some people missed that quality. So in a matter of few years, the Prophet, with the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the support and guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, managed to make these people who were happy to die for each other. So in the Battle of Mu'tah, someone saw some soldiers are injured, they are wounded on the ground. They were not able to move. They were not, able to do anything for themselves. And, when you are injured, you become very thirsty. So he went to offer water. And when he offered water to the first person, because he was also trying to find who is still alive, so he found someone and wanted to give water. Then he pointed at someone else and said, with his, finger, that, or maybe with a very quiet, voice, give it to my brother. He deserves more. He's more thirsty. So he went to the next person, but he also didn't take the water, and pointed at someone else. And in the end, all of them died without taking water. They preferred to die thirsty and offer this water to another person, another brother. So to be able to die for each other, to be able to sacrifice for each other, that's great, but it must be based on justice first. And this is why Quran says, Inna Allah ya'muru bil-adli wal-ihsan. Not bil-adl avil-ihsan. It's not either justice or benevolence. No. Adl and justice and ita'i dhil qurba. So these come in hierarchical order. And then he expands on the issue of serving people. He says, some people say, the purpose of religion is to be, at the end, caring for people and serving people. Even he says, sometimes I hear some people say that irfan is very good because it makes you help people. And they want to say your iman only bears fruits if you serve people. The outcome of iman. And he says there is a mistake here. Iman is not for the sake of serving people. Serving people is a requirement of iman, is a foundation of iman. Salat and charity, we many times in the Quran have these two together. We don't have iman in order to pray or in order to do infaq. We have infaq, we have a prayer in order to move on. These give us fuel, these give us energy for our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But our ma'rifah of Allah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the main thing that we need to achieve. But in this process, we try to be very caring about everyone, even animals, even birds, insects, even water, soil, air, anything, any creature. You are trying to be very careful. You try to be making sure that at least you don't cause any harm to them if you are not able to improve their condition. But this is not end of the story. Or you want to help poor people, educate them, feed them, give them medicine, give them clothes. But this is not end of it. This is the beginning. In the sense that without this, you cannot go any further, but you shouldn't be also thinking that this is the end of it. Another issue is that some people try to reduce every service only to these kinds of services. For example, just giving food, water, etc. But we need also to take care of their spiritual needs, their intellectual needs, their emotional needs. It's not just that. And also, we should not treat all people the same. Maybe someone is struggling in order to protect his or her dignity and honor, and someone is damaging his own dignity and honor and is not listening, is not, cooperative, and even is trying to harm other people. We cannot say they are all the same and we need to love them the same and serve them the same. Yes, there are certain things that regardless of their character, we need to help. But we cannot say every person receives the same level of love and the same level of support and attention. So we have to be very careful about the way we define serving people. What type of service, what type of people, to what degree. And in the end, this is all one important aspect of faith, but it's not the only thing. It's one important aspect of perfection. This is not everything, and it's not the end of the story. So if other people end up with being charitable, we start with being charitable and we keep being charitable, but we don't, stop here. Then after this, he starts the school of socialism. This is the school that very much focuses on turning individualism into socialism. Again, there is something good here, as we said in one of the early sessions, that each of these schools, they have some good observations. They have seen some of the issues, some of the problems, some of the opportunities for human progress. But the problem is that they have not been able to be comprehensive. And sometimes they have also made mistakes in distinguishing between what is right, what is wrong. But none of them is 100% wrong. It means none of them has missed the truth 100%. So they have something of truth in them. So emphasis on being not just concerned about individuals is good. Thinking of social aspects of human life is very important. Allama Tabatabai Rahmatullah Alayhi in Al-Mizan says that everything in Islam has a social aspect. Even salat, even wudu. For Hajj, for zakat, it's obvious. For salat, salatul jama'ah, salatul jum'ah, salatul eid, it's obvious. But everything in Islam, he says, has a social element. So we are not ignoring social life. But the thing is that at the same time, we should not neglect about the individuals. And then this school of socialism has another problem, and that is the solution they offer. They say we have to cancel individual properties, individual ownership. Everything should be owned by society. They say that problems start when people own things. Some people who are also religious, they have tried to say that this is like, for example, when Adam alayhi salam was in heaven, there was no problem. But when he and Eve came to the earth and the descendants of them grew here, then problems started with ownership. And when societies advanced and became more populated, there were more problems. So they tried to say, it's better that if we go back to the original communism, to the initial, life which was based on only common ownership. And socialism for them is a way, as a transient situation for reaching, again, communism. But the problem is that, first of all, by cancellation of individual ownership, society may decline in many standards. Lots of misuse can happen. Some people become lazy, some people try to take advantage, and many issues happen. But if you want to look at it more, fundamentally, the problem is not whether I own something or not. The problem is whether I am owned by something or not. I owning something in the sense that I have rights to use it and I can give it to other people, I can share or not, but one person has right, this is not a problem. The problem is if this object owns me and my heart, and instead of serving me, I serve it. That's the problem. As we have in hadith, لَيْسَ الزُّهْدُ أَلَّا تَمْلِكَ شَيْئًا بَلْ الزُّهْدُ أَلَّا يَمْلِكَكَ شَيْءٌ. Zuhd is not a matter of not owning. Zuhd is a matter of not being owned. And none of the countries with 100% socialist economy were able to progress. There are lots of beautiful points in this kind of system that take care of social welfare, etc. But if you want really to cancel social ownership, individual ownership, and everything is owned by society, then they cannot progress, and they cannot have anything to offer them to the society. Then at the end, poverty would be shared instead of wealth. So this school, according to Ayatollah Mutahari, has a big mistake. The mistake is not that we want to move from just being concerned about me to being concerned about others, or turning me into we. This is not the problem. Actually, this to some extent is true, and we want to achieve. In Irfan also, we try to get rid of me. And in Allah, we try to turn to we, not separate from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have also similar concerns, but in different ways. But the problem, the main problem with this is, again, taking something to the extreme and offering a solution which is not doable and which is not justified. And actually, in practice, we have seen in many countries that it has not worked. Then he expands on the issue of zuhd, as I said, that for us, dunya, in the sense of belonging, in the sense of being owned by blessings of this world, is disliked. But dunya, in the sense of benefiting from the blessings, is very much valued and appreciated. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every bit of it. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam says, Ad-dunya daru mamarrin, la daru maqarrin. وَالنَّاسُ فِيهَا رَجُلَانِ رَجُلٌ بَاعَ فِيهَا نَفْسَهُ فَأَوْبَقَهَا وَرَجُلٌ ابْتَاعَ نَفْسَهُ فَأَعْتَقَهَا. Dunya is a place for transition, for moving, not to settle. It's not where you stay forever. It's transient situation. And there are two kinds of people here. Someone some people that they sell themselves in dunya. It's like a market. They sell themselves and destroy themselves. So they buy dunya and sell themselves. They give their own honor, dignity, value, and just buy dunya. These people are destroying themselves. And some people buy themselves in dunya and free themselves. So they offer something worldly, but they gain their own honor and dignity and freedom. In the series on Nahj al-Balagha, introduction to Nahj al-Balagha, which was based on the Ayatollah Mutahhar's Sayyid al-Nahj al-Balagha, we had extensive discussion about Amirul Mu'minin's approach to dunya in Nahj al-Balagha and Zuhd, etc. And this was one of the things we discussed over there in more details. He says, Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam once had a coin, maybe silver or gold, dirham or dinar, looked at it and said, as long as you are in my hand, you are not mine. When I use it, I use you, I spend you for the sake of Allah, then you become mine. So, like, when Rasulullah, they had a, Zabih, they had a sacrifice and was distributing, and a wife of the Prophet said that, nothing remained for us. And Rasulullah said, whatever we give away, they remain for us, not what we eat. One day, Amirul Mu'minin was passing by a butchery, and the butcher told Amirul Mu'minin, today I have brought, quality meat. Amirul Mu'minin said, I don't have money. He said, I can be patient. You can take the meat and give money later. Imam said, I tell my stomach to be patient. Instead of taking money and you will be patient with me, I can say to my stomach to be patient, so that I don't feel, that I am under debt. So this is part of the discussion about the school of socialism. Inshallah, we will resume this in the next session with the discussion about Islah al-Darun. We have to improve from within. And that is the only way to get rid of ego. If you want to get rid of ego, it's not by canceling, private ownership or personal properties. We have to get rid of ego through Islah al-Darun, through correcting ourselves, improving ourselves, building ourselves. And inshallah, this will be our topic for the next session. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the soul of Ayatollah Mutahhari and all our scholars who have passed away, and increase their lives and preserve for us our scholars. May Allah, inshallah, in this day of Jummah, send His rahmah and maghfirah to all mu'mineen and mu'minat, especially those who have rights upon us. And may Allah keep all of you healthy, inshallah, and successful in all your affairs. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
Ahsantum, Jazakallah, Sheikh.
May Allah bless you.
So, Sheikh, we got 3 raised hands. Do you have time to take those questions?
Yes, inshallah, for 10 minutes I can.
All right, so Sister Sultana Zahra, could you please unmute yourself and ask question? Sister Sultana.
हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
मैं हिंदी में क्वेश्चन कर सकती हूँ मौलाना साहब?
Alim?
जी मैं हिंदी में
Well, I
कोई
think
क्वेश्चन कर सकती हूँ?
नहीं, बेहतर ये है कि इंग्लिश में करें आप, क्योंकि इस वक्त हमारे पास कोई ट्रांसलेटर नहीं है, तो प्लीज इंग्लिश में करें। अगर नहीं है तो नेक्स्ट टाइम आप कर लीजिएगा, फिर हम ट्रांसलेटर का इंतजाम कर लेंगे, ठीक है?
ओके ओके ठीक है, थैंक यू।
नेक्स्ट सिस्टर फारा, प्लीज रेज योर क्वेश्चन। सिस्टर फारा, Sister Farah, please unmute yourself and raise question. Okay, next, Dr. Jawad Akhtar, please unmute yourself and raise question.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
My name is Dr. Javed Hassan Akhtar from Dera Ghazi Khan, Pakistan. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ali Shamali. Sir, my concern is about social justice. There are two terms, equity and equality. Equity and equality. Which one is acceptable in Islam? Equity or equality? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Equality in the sense of everyone being equal before law, before government, people being given equal opportunities for education, for health, etc. In this sense is good. But equality in the sense that in the end, every person should have equal money, equal, I don't know, power, equal responsibility.
Yeah.
So for example, in the hospital, if we give all the people who work in the hospital equal power, it's not going to work. Certainly, there are areas that nurses can make decisions. There are areas that doctors, there are areas that consultants, there are areas that the head of the hospital. So equity in the sense of social justice is a better word. And certainly social justice then tell us where we can have equal opportunities and where we can have different earnings, for example. So you can have equal opportunities, but in the end of the day, salaries would be different. You cannot say, salaries must be equal. Like a teacher who gives equal mark to every student, no matter how much they worked, no matter how much they learned. It's not good. So equity is better, and equality in certain areas is appreciated, but certain areas, especially when it comes to people seeing the results of their efforts, equality is not good. It's equity, which is good. Alaikum salam.
Wait, brother Yavrusen.
मैं आरा बिहार इंडिया से बात कर रहा हूँ। मेरा एक सवाल ये है कि जैसे कि झूठ बोलना गुनाह है, सख्त गुनाह है, कुरान में भी।
यावर साहब,
यस
यावर साहब के शेर जो है वो उर्दू नहीं समझते हैं, तो आपके लिए ट्रांसलेटर का इंतजाम करना होगा, इस दफा नहीं है। आप नेक्स्ट टाइम आइएगा सवाल लेके अपना, ठीक है? थैंक यू।
ओके, आई विल स्पीक इन इंग्लिश।
ओके, गो अहेड।
Yeah,
I am sorry that I don't know Urdu or Hindi.
I was not aware that.
This is my weakness. No. I don't know Urdu.
Yes, brother Yavar.
Yes, I'm asking about the lies, because everyone speak lie. I'm also speak lying, and so I want to know about that. Ki how we are control on that, because in our regular basis in our society, everyone speak in small little bit in every conversation is use a lying words. So how we control on that lying sentence? So I want to know that.
What do you mean by lying?
Not speak a lie. Don't speak, always speak true.
About not telling lies?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, we had 2 sessions recently on lying based on Mahajjatul Bayda. Inshallah, soon will be public if you check my YouTube. defects. There's a series on defects of the tongue, Afatul Lisan, based on Mahajjatul Bayda, and there are 20 defects. One of them is lying, telling a lie. And Mullah Mohsen Faiz Kashani and Ghazali, they, from Shia and Sunni perspective, they study this issue. So telling a lie is sometimes permissible. So it's not that telling a lie is always a problem. There are exceptions. For example, if for saving someone's life, an innocent life, you need to tell a lie, that is permissible. Or in order to reconcile, for example, husband and wife, father and child, they are not speaking to each other. They are, day by day, maybe getting even worse. And sometimes the only way might be to tell a lie. For example, you say to the father, your child, loves you, says that, he much appreciates, and if you say to the child something. So sometimes for islahu dhat al-bayn, so for something which is greater than the problem in telling lie might be permissible. And our fuqaha, our ulama, mujtahideen, they have explained these things. But apart from these exceptions, which are not, of course, very wide, telling a lie is very, very bad. And even in some hadith, says that a mu'min they mention different crimes. I don't want to mention those crimes. Some of the very vicious crime that a mu'min may make mistake and commit those sins, but a mu'min would never tell lie. So we have to be very careful. Or have hadith that if you put all the bad things in one place, one room, the key to that room is kisb. So we have to really stop any kind of conversation, whether it be in words, in writing, etc., that would not reflect the truth. Because Allah is al-haq. Allah is the absolute truth, and any attempt to distort the truth is, in a sense, fighting against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether we understand it or not. You are denying something which is divine. Even if there is an issue between me and my friend, this small issue is a manifestation of haqq, and Allah is al-haq, the absolute truth. So we have to be careful and observe any pieces of truth so that we can be fully obedient to al-haq. In our also tarbiyah, in our families, in our school, madrasas, one of the things that we have to emphasize on is telling the truth, and inshallah then above telling truth, then being a Siddiq, being truthful person, not just telling the truth. This is a very important thing. Thank you for asking this question. Jazakumullah khairan.
The last question for the day, Sister Batul.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, sister.
My question is that you mentioned the quote of Amirul Mu'minin al-Islam, dunya is place of transition.
Yes.
The question is that how can we train or remind ourselves that dunya is a place of transition?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Actually, this is the main issue, that we know this, but how can we keep remembering? Because many times we forget. The dunya, has attractions, and sometimes, we manage to keep ourselves safe from this point, this attraction, but other attractions come. So many ways that can help us in this regard, but I mentioned few. One is to reflect, tafakkur, about the nature of this life. What is the nature of this life? This thing that I want to achieve. For example, I work hard to become, I don't know, a powerful politician. What is the end of it? What I'm going to, have with me? Something that not what can be taken away from me. Something that can, be with me in my eternal journey. Or about money, many things. Tafakkur is one way. Another thing is to choose friends. We cannot choose our family members all the time, but at least we can choose friends that they are not attached to dunya. There's a hadith which says a friend is a brother that you choose, or a sister that you choose. Maybe my own brothers and sisters or cousins, some of them are interested in dunya, or I am surrounded by people who are saying, but I can choose friends, mu'mineen, mu'minat, that when I talk to them, when I see their way of, planning and, balancing values, etc., I see akhirah for them is important, at least. Those that يُرَقِّبُكُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ عَمَلُهُ, as Hazrat Isa alayhi salam said, their amal would make you more interested to work for your akhirah. Another thing is to think and visit, the dead people, graves, and, to go to the cemetery. This is also very powerful because we know that this will be our also destiny. Or, for example, to go to hospitals, to visit ill people in hospital, in home. You see, our life is so vulnerable, and we should use this limited opportunity to achieve something that can remain, not something that can be lost. So there are many things that can help us. Islam has lots of plans and lots of suggestions for this, because this is the main thing. حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا رَأْسُ كُلِّ خَطِيئَةٍ is the root of all our problems. And therefore, the solution starts with controlling this.
Okay, Santum. Well, I can see raised hand of Sister Farhat and Zara. Our apologies, we have to close it here because, as you heard before, the sheikhs need to go early today. So you can keep your questions and ask next Friday. Jazakallah.
Please. Thank you. Please keep your questions. They are important. Inshallah, we will address them. Jazakumullah khairan.
Okay, Sheikh, please conclude and make dua.
We end with dua faraj. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma kulli waliyyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'ih fi hadhihi as-sa'ah wa fi kulli sa'ah waliyan wa hafidha wa qa'idan wa nasira wa dalilan wa 'ayna hatta tuskinahu ardaka taw'a wa tumatta'ahu fiha tawila. وامنن علينا برضاه وهب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاه خيره. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم ارحم موتانا، اللهم اقض حوائجنا ببركة الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسنتم يا شيخ.
Thank you very much. التماس الدعاء.
التماس الدعاء في أمان الله.
في أمان الله وحده.